to connect with all of you. It's a great opportunity.
And
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, we can get some people inspired to come with us and join cybersecurity forces. So, that is the whole agenda.
yeah, especially if we just say privacy and security are the key factors nowadays. If you talk about social networking or any cyber challenges which we are facing right now. So
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, when GDPR came into action in 2018, it has become very much imperative to like take our security, especially of personal information, very, very seriously. Though our country is not at par with them, but definitely it is going to be the future. So it definitely it's the right time to start. No
yeah,
doubt
and
about it.
my main concern was also that as Aarti, you're doing research on this topic, so it will be very much helpful for the students here that what exactly they should know that what are the factors in cybersecurity where they must show concerns.
Definitely. You want me to discuss this in the PPT? I would love to. I can give you an overview about what I'm doing. My work is somehow in between cybersecurity and machine learning AI. So it's kind of a middle ground. So anybody who is interested in research or looking forward to work in cybersecurity, I think both can be benefited by it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Aarti. And
Thank you.
again, I welcomes you to a Gigzy session. And it's a great honor for us that you are presenting here on the topic of introduction to cybersecurity. And I hope and I wish all the participants will get good knowledge about this a very hot topic. So it's up to you, host now, Anamika and Soumya. Please take care of the session, and you can have a communication with Aarti. So Aarti, these two are the my students, and they are a team member of Gigzy, very ambitious, curious students,
That's
and
very nice to know.
yeah, and they will be managing this session. So it's up to you, host.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Nirmal.
Okay, sir. So, hello, ma'am. My name is Anamika Jain. I'm CSE first year student from SATI Vidisha, doing from computer science branch.
Great, Anamika. Glad to know you. I'll give my introduction in the slide so that I don't have to repeat myself.
Okay, ma'am.
However,
No
I'm
problem.
also a student of masters.
You're doing masters from which
Yeah,
college?
IGDTW in Information Security Management.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So I look forward to this session. Let's see what happens. And anytime if you want to connect with me for anything, I'm always there.
Ma'am, may I ask one question to you? Ma'am, how you started research means what interest aroses in you to work for cyber security?
All right. So when I was in BTech, which was in, I joined my BTech in 2013. I was curious about things in cybersecurity in particular. Everybody was doing some topic research in their third year, second year. So I decided to go ahead and do CEH, which is Certified Ethical Hacking. And after that, there was nothing stopping me uh, from going into this field. So I began there, and then I landed my first job in the same domain and worked there for 2 years. Then coming back for masters. So it has been a you know upside, or you can say a very different journey than others. But again, worthwhile one.
Oh, ma'am, I don't know about hacking means. So, which type
Mhm.
of language or what you have to do for that? Means or
You
just
can
means
Yeah, yeah. So language is irrelevant. You can have a very basic knowledge of any language. For example, you should know the concept. Even if you're familiar with C and you're thorough with it, I think you will be able to get cybersecurity very easily, because cybersecurity doesn't demand you to be a hardcore programmer. All it wants you to have is a good knowledge of understanding whether a line of code is malicious or not. Again, this also you learn when you are reading about cybersecurity. There is an entire course dedicated to it, how to know where are the bugs in your code. So, all in all, I wouldn't say you need a lot of programming knowledge. Anyone language, anything which you have learned in data structure is good enough. Apart from that, I think networking is something which every cybersecurity expert should focus upon. I think it gives a depth to your knowledge in cybersecurity. So, again, that is one subject I would recommend you to pay attention to.
Hey ma'am, myself Soumya Jyoti Singh and I'm from EC branch from SATI Vidisha. Ma'am, as you are, am I audible?
Yeah, yeah. Hi, Soumya. Just listening to you.
Yes ma'am. Ma'am, as you are a former information security manager at TCS, so that particular job also helped it in your research about the cyber security and such kind of stuff.
I wouldn't say help me in the research. Definitely, it, build my foundation in cybersecurity. It was something that inspired me to come back to studies and learn about other aspects of it. As for the research, it is something which uh, when you are looking out for any research topic, you dive deeper and go through a lot of topics, something that vibes with you. That's how I myself came across my own topic which I'm working upon. However, I wouldn't deny the contribution of my experience before. It has been a great help for sure.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, you're doing MTech. So, in which particular field you're doing masters? I mean, if I know there's some specific field in which you have to do masters of technology.
So I am doing my MTech in Information Security Management, which is under IT department of IGDTW. And since it is dedicated field, it is only it is focused there. So I think it was the best opportunity for me to study under that. I wouldn't have gone for MTech if it wasn't for this field. So I hope this answers your question. That is the
Yes,
most,
ma'am.
yeah, inspiring thing. All in all, I would suggest that once you have your eyes on a certain field or your interest, then I think you just cannot stop. You go ahead and research about it, and you find one door after another. All you have to do is walk into it. It's that simple.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're most welcome, Soumya.
Ma'am means I'm having one question. Just I'm doing graduation for the post graduation purpose. In the IT field, most of people say we just need a experience for the job, and some people do post graduation, some people not. So, ma'am, means for research work only we cannot do this research work with the job itself. Means not applying in particular college.
You can do jobs side by side. In fact, in companies, you are being assigned to a separate unit if you are interested in research. So, but for that, the only thing is your how to get into that particular section of your organization. So that is the only challenge. Apart from that, definitely there are different societies or different departments in your every organization that focus on research. So even I think in TCS or in fact I have interned with Goldman. So there were people who were doing their research work side by side while they were working there. So and their research work doesn't just benefit them, but also the company. So company also helps you in going through your research work. So it's not a problem that uh, that you cannot do it in the company. Another issue with that is for the when you are doing a research in company, you have to abide by their criterias. You have to choose that field which they assign you. You may not have the liberty to choose any specific topic which you want to work on. So that is the liberty which college or your when you're studying, then your course can allow you. That is the main difference, I would say.
What is the criteria for getting admission for applying post graduation in IGDTUW?
It's very simple, Anamika. Had I known it earlier, I would have told you. Last year also, they just announced it on their website and LinkedIn pages that you have to submit one application form for masters. However, there is a provision for people to take GATE exam and get admitted into the college. But if there are seats available, even the applications of applicants is considered. So if you're applying there straight away, I think it is very easy to apply there, especially for post graduation. I wouldn't say it is the same case for graduation. For that, you have to go through JEE mains exam.
Means without GATE, we can also apply for that.
Sure thing, yes, you can. But there is not a guarantee that you'll get selected if there are more GATE applicants who are getting admitted. So it depends. If there are free seats, definitely the applicants will be chosen straight away from the application process.
So work experience is also a factor for that selection process.
Yes, I think everything falls into picture. So when you are applying, your work experience, even your previous college, your marks, everything they consider and choose the best person or student among them. So it's
Okay,
supply
ma'am.
and demand thing. So if there is more seats, they will consider you. If not, definitely they'll go for the better students or people who are coming from GATE.
Okay, ma'am.
Awesome. So I hope it answers all your questions. If you have any more, we can take it during the PPT. Should I start?
Okay, ma'am, let me
Just
introduce you.
Anamika, can we wait for 2 minutes more?
Yeah, we can do it. Okay.
I'm sorry, ma'am. If you're not comfortable with that, then we can start now as well.
No, it's all right. Let's wait till 5:05. We can start then.
Ma'am, I have one more question. Ma'am, what type of research work we have to do in AmTech? Means how it works.
It depends on your interest, Anamika. For example, if you are working in a certain field and you're interested, then definitely you can go ahead and research on that. Another factor that influence your choice may be your mentor. So it depends what field they are specialized into. So it
Ma'am,
may
what is the
also,
process? Means like you're doing in cyber security. So how means what type of work you are doing? I'm asking that.
all right. So my work basically encompasses video anomaly detection. So I think it comes under the purview of physical security, wherein we have to identify any mishappening or outlier when you are going through a video in real time. So if somebody is trying to break into the building, then our system or our proposal should be efficient enough to identify that it's an anomaly or it's a outside behavior. So that is the work I'm working on. And so we have, how should I put it? So it is still ongoing. we are going through several type of anomalies and researching about their you know how easy it is to detect them, or how accurately we can identify the cause of anomaly. So that is the, and we are using deep learning to implement the solution.
Okay,
However,
ma'am.
if I have to go into detail, it would take, another session to explain that. Overall, this is the idea, and it comes under the purview of physical security.
So means you're doing in the physical security work, right?
Sort of, yeah. It's more like a anomaly detection in a video frame.
Okay, ma'am. So I think can we start?
Yeah.
So good evening, all of you. Gigzi, welcome you here for the today's session of cybersecurity. We are having Aarti Wala ma'am, cybersecurity expert, former information security manager at TCS. So now I would like to welcome you, ma'am, to start your presentation.
Thank you, Anamika. Just give me a moment. I'm sharing my PPT. Hello, is my screen visible, Anamika?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
All right then. Hello everyone. My name is Aarti, and thank you for joining today for this session. I hope you're doing well. So, this is a session on introduction to cybersecurity, and I am hoping that all of you are beginners. So, I'll be taking it slow and very basic for your understanding. And anytime you have any question, you can ask me. So, this is a little bit about me. Right now, I'm a student and I am a hardcore cybersecurity enthusiast. I have earlier worked as information security manager, currently pursuing my master's in information security management from IGDTUW. I have worked and been working as InfoSec Girls Delhi chapter lead. I got EC Council Ethical Hacking Scholarship in 2020, and the rest of it is that my work experience in Goldman and TCS. And if anybody of you wants to follow me or reach out to me, these are my Twitter and LinkedIn handles. So this is the agenda for today. This is what we are going to learn. Um, so we'll start from what is cybersecurity and what are its different components, the CIA traits, vulnerability, threat risk. So everything, whatever I'm going to talk about today is something which I hope that I had known when I started my journey in cybersecurity. It is very difficult to understand where you are starting in cybersecurity. Sometimes you just get overwhelmed thinking about it is a great field. It has a lot of complication. How am I going to do it? So I hope that this presentation gives you the confidence and makes you understand that it is very simple to start. All you need is motivation and some courage to start somewhere. So I hope it helps you. I'll start my presentation with this fact that there is a hacker attack every 39 seconds. So you can imagine the possibility that the next attack can be on you, or you can fall victim to it. So imagine how many hackers are working at the moment trying to hack a system. In fact, sometimes we even don't acknowledge that we get fraudulent calls, and we don't acknowledge it's something related to cybersecurity. But let me tell you, this is also a count which we take into consideration when talking about cybersecurity. So anything that has to do with a digital device is going to be part of this, you know, count which we are talking about. So let me ask you, what is your idea of cybersecurity? I know there are a lot of people in the PPT, and you'll just get bored if I'm not letting you interact. So, any one of you who wants to take their chance, anybody who wants to talk about it, what is their own understanding of cybersecurity?
Mom, security of our data, softwares
Definitely,
and hardwares.
definitely correct. Very rightly put. Anybody else? Anything which they might add to it? All right. So, may I ask if there's any one student here who is from third or fourth year of college, BTech?
Yes, ma'am.
So, is there any course regarding cybersecurity in your curriculum? None, right? Or is it
No,
there?
no, ma'am.
All right. So, which year are you in?
Ma'am, third year.
Third year. So, it might be there in fourth year. Usually, there is only one or two course which are, dedicated to cybersecurity. And this
Yes.
is enough to tell you that not a great deal of attention is being given to this subject when it comes to your undergrad degree. So it is very difficult to. So, since you can see that even students are not given the right amount of time and effort on this subject, then how can other people in the society will understand the impact of cybersecurity in general? So, let me tell you that cybersecurity usually encompasses three elements in it, which is people, technology, and processes. And when it comes to the security of these three elements, we call it cybersecurity. Usually, it happens in terms of digital media. When we are saying technology, we are referring to digital media. And when we are talking about process, then we are talking about the right way of doing things. So there is no shortcut. You cannot go ahead and log in into your Facebook without putting a username or password, right? Because if that is going to happen, then anybody can do that on your behalf. So there is technology involved, there is process involved, and finally there are people whose data is being shared or who are working on that technology. So when these three elements combine, and when we talk about their security, that is when we think about cybersecurity. I hope that makes sense. So going ahead, we have three main characteristics of cybersecurity. So no matter how old you get, how experienced you become, where you go, where you are giving your presentation, every time these three are the key pillars of cybersecurity. Everything that we do in this field is around these three things. So one of them is confidentiality, another is integrity, and finally availability. So out of you, anybody who wants to talk about this or have heard about these trio? This way you are going to get bored. So it's good if you can share your knowledge as well. I may learn something. Nothing? Nobody?
We
Yes,
have
I know
a
little bit.
bit knowledge about confidence.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't get you. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Something like cookies, malware software, firewall. I knew about these things. Restrictions we can apply to protect
Mm-hmm.
our data.
Mm-hmm. So what you said is very much complicated. I'm talking about very basic thing here. So you can count it on your fingers. So first thing is we are talking about confidentiality, which means secrecy. Be it myself, yourself, or anybody. All we want is we have some secrets, right? You might have some secrets in your life, correct? And as such, everybody else too. So confidentiality means having some secrets and not sharing it with anybody who is not, you know, allowed to hear it. So you might have some things which you may share with your friends, but you may not want to say it here, correct? Similarly, when we are working in an organization, we have some data which we are allowed to share inside our organization, but if it gets leaked outside, it may impact severely, correct? So there are different levels of confidentiality, but overall, it gives overall the meaning of confidentiality is having something secret or having something secure, and we do not give its access to anybody who is not authorized. Okay. So if we are giving access to someone who is authorized to have that information, that it is not a confidentiality breach. I hope I'm clear. Next comes integrity. Anybody who can talk about integrity? Anybody?
Like personal area network, the devices are linked. Integration types.
I think integrity has something to do with like how much data is like not tampered, and like if the file is supposed to be it was supposed to have some data, it should like be that data instead of like being tampered with any malware or like any other stuff.
Correct, correct. So sir is
Maybe
correct.
in
Yeah, yeah. Please, anybody who wants to add more? All right. So sir is absolutely correct. Integrity means, I'll give you an example. You have a best friend and you are sure that whatever your best friend tells you is the right information. You don't doubt it. But there is someone whom you don't like, and anytime they are telling you something, you always tend to doubt it. Whether is it correct information? Are they lying to me? So that is what integrity means. Integrity means that ensuring that the data we are receiving is real, accurate, and has not been changed by anybody when it was transmitted to us or transmitted anywhere else. I hope that makes sense, correct? So confidentiality loses its meaning if the data you are protecting is not correct. So integrity works alongside confidentiality. So the data you are protecting must be accurate, must be real, and it should be, unchanged by anybody unless they are authorized medium. Finally, there comes availability. Now, this is the easiest pillar. Anybody who wants to talk about this? All right. So availability simply means that whatever you need, it should be available to you at the right time. Correct? You can say, ma'am, one time we are talking about confidentiality where we are, talking about secrecy of data, that it should not be available. However, in availability, we are saying that it should be available whenever we need it. So the difference here is in case of confidentiality, the data should not be available to anybody who is not authorized. However, availability means whenever we need, any authorized person needs that data, it should be available. Because if it is not available at the right time, it may lose its value. So when you talk about share markets or anything which can change the result of something within few seconds or you know in the correct, so which can change result in few seconds or within a very limited period of time, at that point of time you realize how much important it is that the data is available to you within the right time. Now, how do we ensure that these three pillars are, secured or being taken care of? So there are some components regarding them. There are some, principles which surrounds them. When we talk about confidentiality, how do we ensure that our data is safe and is not available to someone? So the first thing is encryption. Encryption, I hope you're aware, it means that we encrypt our data in a certain way that it doesn't make sense for another person. They need a certain key to be able to understand it. And so we assume that our data is safe because they cannot anyway make sense of it. Another thing is access control. Again, so if we don't give anybody access to our data, then definitely it's safe, right? We are not giving them access through building or through internet. So we are assuming that data is safe. Then comes authentication. So anybody who knows about authentication? All right. So authentication means simply that your data is available to someone who is able to verify that they are the right user. So if, for example, how you log into your Facebook or Instagram account or LinkedIn account, you have to give your authentication first that you are the right person by providing your ID and password. And there can be different mechanism to do that. There can be fingerprint sensors, there can be a password mechanism, there can be some sort of token or ID card, anything. So these are the authentication mechanisms. Then there is authorization. You have logged into the system, but you are not authorized to access certain data. So for example, in your college, you might have your account, right? You might have a student account to log into your website and check your result. But you may not have the authorization to change the result. Does it happen? Or does anybody have authorization to change the result?
No,
So-
ma'am. Only college faculties have that access.
All right. I hope you had it. Even I wished I had it, but then we can only wish, right? So how they are ensuring that we don't have that access? By authorization mechanism. So certain people have certain level of authorization. Okay. Finally is physical security. So we are securing everything. We are keeping encryption, access control, and blah blah blah. But our building is not secure. Our computer is placed right outside the building. Then does it make any sense of securing it through from internet or web? No, right? So we also need to take care of physical security when we are talking about confidentiality. Going ahead, we have integrity. In that, I would say it's very easy. I think my these bubbles have interchanged. Give me a moment, okay? So actually, these are availability bubbles. I'm so sorry. I didn't pay attention to it. So these come here. And these go here. I'll change the color later, okay? Not to interrupt you here. All right. Here we go. So when we talk about integrity, how do we ensure it? So the options we have is we have certain backup tapes or backup medias in which we always keep backup of our original data. So if somebody has tampered with the data, somebody has attacked on my system, changed the data, I can still go back and retrieve those tapes and check what data it held earlier. Then we have another technology called checksums. So this makes use of hashing. So what we do there is we create the hash of the data. Is anybody of you aware about hashing? All right. So hashing basically what it does is hashing is a mechanism to convert your entire data into a specific length code or hash. So so even if your data is a bulk of data, you just condense it, you create a hash out of it, and even if you change a single letter in your data, then the entire change entire hash will be changed. I don't know how much it makes sense for you right now. I think you should go back and check about hashing because it is one of the very important concepts in cybersecurity. So it helps you in identifying if even a single bit of your data has been changed. Checksum has the power to identify that. It can compare both the hashes and let you know that your data has been corrupted or has been changed. Then we have data correcting codes. So again, this also makes use of hashing. It checks whether your code has been changed in past, or if there is a hash which is not matching with the previous hash, then it goes back and changes the data into its previous form. Finally, when it comes to availability, we have physical protection and computational redundancy. So how do I ensure that my data is available at the right time and at the right moment to the right person? So for that, I have physical protection, which means I ensure that my devices are up and running. Nobody's interrupting with them. Nobody's coming and making any misuse of my devices. So that is called physical protection. I'm keeping everything secured. Also, I'm storing some backup tapes so that if required, I can rely on those stored data. So that is physical protection. Then there is computational redundancies, which means having multiple options available to you. So if your particular office is closed and you are not able to work there, you should have some other site where you have some systems where you can go back and work. So it is also known as business continuity planning. So we call it BCP. So in that, the whole point of having this is that your business should never stop, no matter what the disaster may be. Even if it is a natural disaster, you should have some another site or another option available for you to go back to and start your business again. I hope it's clear to you. Any doubts so far? All right, going ahead. Now, I talked about the 3 pillars. Now I have these 3 things which highly impact any organization in deciding their policies and their risk management procedure. So what is a risk actually? You can see the diagram here. I have created it. So anybody who can read it and understand what it means? So there are 3 main factors by which any company is always going to get impacted. One is asset. They have something of value which they want to protect, which they don't want anybody to create any changes to. Or if these things or these assets are compromised, they are going to have a huge loss. Then there is some threat. Threat means any new incident which opens some sort of potential to harm you. So a threat can be anyone, a person threatening you that I'm going to attack your system, or any employee whom you have, fired from your company. So that is a threat to you. If they want, they can, jeopardize the business. Then comes the vulnerability. Vulnerability is your own weakness, which you have created while, or if you have not created it, or it occurs originally in the system. So if you have a system and you are not updating the security of it every day, you don't have an antivirus, then you have some vulnerability. I hope that makes sense. And when these 3 combines, then what appears? Risk appears. So risk is originally the potential for damage when a threat exploits a vulnerability. So risk is the final damage that occurs when the vulnerability has been compromised by a threat, and it causes the loss of some sort of asset for you. So I have this fun activity for you. I got this pick from African Cyber Risk Institute. So there we have risk, which is equal to threat into vulnerability. And if you go ahead and make any combination of these, you will end up in having one of the risk. So anybody who can unmute themselves and tell me how or make their own combination here. I'll give you one example. So, for example, any angry employee is my threat. So, I have one employee, I fired him or her, and now they are angry with me. So, now this is my threat. Out of the vulnerabilities, I can select any. So, my system have some vulnerability. For example, it has some broken processes. So, there are some processes which I have not taken care of, so they are broken. It can be, for example, when I fired my employee, I did not remove their access from my systems. So even if I have fired them, they still have access to the computer of my organization. Okay. And now what it can create for me? Now it creates the risk for me, which is it can have business disruption, it can have financial loss, any loss of privacy. So any two things from threat and vulnerability, when they meet, they create any of the risk which are available on the left hand side. So anybody who wants to take any their go ahead on this and create any fun combination out of this? Anyone, please take your chances. I think this is a very straightforward activity, else you will not understand this concept.
Mom, nature and broken processes,
Mm-hmm.
disasters, and due to that, our systems get something broken.
Okay, so I will give you. So you have chosen nature and broken processes. So let me give you an example. Nature is some natural disaster, correct? For example, there is a earthquake. Okay, and broken processes, that it was earthquake in Delhi, but my company had not created another site in some other city. So this is a broken process. I did not follow the process. I should have another office in some other city as my backup plan, but I did not do it. So that is a broken process. Now nature met broken process. Now I don't have anything from which I can, still continue working. Correct? So what will it cause me? It can cause me any of the risk. Like it can damage my reputation. It can, you know, um, make me underconfident. There can be legal penalties if I have lost their data, my client's data. I hope it's making sense for you. Okay.
Yes, mom.
Ma'am, dishonest employees,
Mm-hmm.
software bugs,
Mm-hmm.
damage to reputation or loss of privacy, any of them,
Yes,
and
correct.
even though financial losses as well.
Correct. So you see the combination how they work. So any dishonest employee, so I am dishonest, I am getting some benefit from someone else. So I'm dishonest, correct? I'm going to betray my company. And then I also found out there is a vulnerability. What is that? You said software bugs, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So since I'm the employee, I know about some software bug in the program, and I misused it to create loss for the company, and which led to any of the risk which are there, loss of privacy, financial loss, or anything. So this makes me feel that it is clear to you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Let's go ahead. Now, these are some cybersecurity principles. If you're going to work in cybersecurity, uh, it is not something that you are going to, say, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to become a cybersecurity expert. No, there are some principles involved and you must abide by it. And you will understand when I'm talking about it in this slide. So when I talk about economy of mechanism, so it means security mechanism should be as simple and small as possible. Why do I say that? So imagine you have a huge house, okay, huge bungalow, and it has a lot of gates, a lot of gates. You even have a basement, you have some rooftop, there is another gate. So as your structure is very complex, so since it is complex, it has more entry points, correct? And there is a larger chance that you are going to forget to lock the door out of, since you have so many doors, you may forget to lock any one of them, right? And it may lead to a breach. So anybody can make use of that door and enter your building. Okay. So this is why they say ki economy of mechanism means you should keep your security architecture as simple as possible, so that your design should be simple, so that there are less number of access points and you are able to see the design and acknowledge where is my entry point or where it can be breached. Does it make sense? So if you have a small house, you have less number of doors, and so you know exactly which door you need to lock. Hope that makes sense, correct? So keep your design simple and small. Then there is fail-safe defaults. Now this is another interesting principle. So default configuration of system should have a conservative protection scheme. So it means, imagine that you have some sort of computer, okay? You're working on your machine, and imagine there is a disruption and your machine shuts down, okay? So the point of having fail-safe defaults is that when your machine is shut down, it should not it should not allow anybody to enter the machine or anybody to open the machine. It should completely shut down, denying any sort of access. So in case there is a system failure, the system should go back and shut everything down. It should not allow anybody to access any of its data or processes. So in case of a disaster, go back and shut everything down. Ensure that even if you are failing, that you still have security around yourself. That is called fail-safe defaults. Is there any confusion in this term? Let me know.
No, ma'am.
All right. Then there is complete mediation, which means it restricts the caching of information, which often leads to simpler implementation of mechanisms. So it simply means that uh, how should I put this? So complete mediation means uh, you are logging into your account. Okay, you have gone. All right. So let me give this example. So you are in a company and you have certain position, and on that position you are given certain access. You are given access to a very high privilege. You are working in that role. You are given privilege to some secret documents. But the next day, what happens is your boss realize that you have some you have done some mischief and you have shared some documents. You are not reliable, you are not integral. So what they have done is they have removed you from the post. So complete mediation, what this principle means is the next time you log in to your account, it should again go back and check what sort of access you have. So every time any employee is logging into a system, the system should check whether this employee has access to certain information or not. It should always go back. It should not rely on the previous information or previous record that earlier this person had a very high level of access. No, every time a person is going to log in, you should check whether they have the access or not. Okay, so that is called complete mediation. What's written here is that it should not have store any cache or any information from previous login. It should always check the new credentials, new logins, and go back and check what sort of access this person has, and then only allow them to continue. Next is open design. Open design is basically whenever you are creating any security solution, do not keep it a secret, because if it is a secret, you will not know how many security breaches you have. Do you see that so many bug bounty hackers are there who go ahead and um, perform penetration testing or some sort of intrusion on the host server, like even for Facebook, Twitter, and every big website. They go ahead and they check their design, they check any security loophole there, and they get paid for it. Do you know why they get paid for it? Anybody?
Yeah, because they are able to search the loops.
Exactly. They are helping the company to become more reliable, more secure by finding the faults. So open design means sharing your design with everyone, allowing everybody to take a look at it, to check the model and to find flaws in it so that you can create a better design next time. Okay. Then there is separation of privileges. So system should grant access permission based on more than one condition being satisfied. So it means that whenever you are given some sort of privilege, there should always be a separation among them. Does it make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
So it means that you might have some sort of privilege in your system, and some other person may also have the same privilege in the system, correct? But your privilege should be separated, and you should be given privilege to the system based on more than one condition being satisfied. So they should check what is your password or what is your credential. Then they should also check what is your authorization level, and then only you should be given access to certain resources in the system. So it defines what sort of privilege you have inside that particular system or inside that particular network. Then going ahead, there is the principle of least privilege. So it means that whenever any new person is onboarded into a organization or is given any sort of login to a system, they should start with the least privilege. How should I put it? So, for example, you have a house and you might have some maid, okay, coming to your home and cleaning for you or doing your chores. So for that, she needs to come inside the house, correct? She cannot do the cleaning from outside the house. So you're giving her the privilege of coming inside the house, okay? But do you also give her your locker key, like your key of your locker or your almirah, anything? Do you do that? So since nobody's saying no, I think everybody gives the key, right? Is it? All right. So let me tell you that nobody should give the key to the maid to your locker, because there you store your valuable items. Okay. So what I am trying to say here is whenever the maid comes to your house, you give her only that much privilege that is necessary for her to do her work. So you're only giving her access to the room, but you are not giving her keys to your almirah, because that is not her forte, that is not her privilege to have access to your almirah or check the items inside. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Then the another principle is least common mechanism. It means that, all right, so all of you are students here, correct? You might have certain account on the university website. So do you have the same account to log in, or all of you have different accounts? Tell me.
Ma'am,
Anybody?
Ma'am, different accounts we are having.
different accounts, ma'am.
Different accounts, right? But why do you have different accounts? Why can't a same account work for you? I can post the result for everybody in that account and all of you can log in through the same account. What is the problem? Anybody who can come up with?
Ma'am, because we submit the examination fee,
Confidentiality.
enrollment fees, ma'am. There are many works in the website, ma'am.
Again, so come again. I think you tried to say something which I didn't understand. So one of you said confidentiality, which is completely correct. What else? What is the main reason? Or let's say not even about your university account. Do you have a Facebook account or Instagram account?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
So why do you have different user ID password? Why not the same one?
Security,
So that
ma'am.
only we have the access to it. Nobody else
That is
comes
correct.
and sees whatever we are doing inside that.
But why do you want to have a separate account? Let's everybody do everything from that one account, na?
Privacy of data.
privacy, I let's say I am not concerned about privacy at the moment. I'm not concerned. I want a single account and I want everybody to post anything there. What is the problem with that?
So there is no sense of a personal account. It will be a
Exactly.
kind of public account, right?
Exactly. So that is what, there is no concept of authentication there. Everybody is going to, for example, out of few people, somebody posted something illegal there. Okay. So who is going to be responsible for that act? That is the main issue. So having one person responsible for one account makes it easier for anybody to track down the owner of that account. Make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
That is called least common mechanism. Avoiding as much possible to have any common channel of logging to some accounts. कंपनी में होता है कई बार कि आपको एक ऐसा अकाउंट दिया जाता है in which your team is, all of your team has to log in through a single account, which is a bad mechanism. So we should avoid that. We should not have a single mechanism to log in. There should be separate IDs for each person who is logging to the system. Okay, so that is called least common mechanism. Next is psychological acceptability. So this is the factor when when we are considering public opinion or public how should I put it, a public ease in applying the security. So for example, you have developed one app which is very secure, but it has 10 logs that a person has to go through. They also have to provide fingerprint, they also have to give face lock, they also have to put some pin, 4-digit pin, they also have to put some password. So do you think it is going to work? The person is going to use your this app. So you think it's going to work because you're not replying. If there's anything which I'm saying and you're not able to understand, let me know. I will explain it better. Yes, please go ahead. So let me tell you, if you're going to have 10 separate verification mechanism on a single app, nobody is going to use it. That is the fact, no matter how much secure it is. So you also have to take care of the psychology of people, how they are going to accept it. Your solution should be secure, but it should not be a cumbersome solution that a person has to go through a lot of trouble in logging in. Okay. Then there is a work factor. What is a work factor? The cost of circumventing a security mechanism should be compared with the resources of a potential attacker. So let me tell you, कैसे होता है. Imagine I have a company and I am I'm working on certain project. Okay, but the project is very new. I didn't put a lot of effort into it until now. So should I put world class security around it, which will cost me a fortune? Do you think it is a good way? आपके घर में सिर्फ टेबल और चेयर है तो क्या आपको बाहर आर्मी पूरी खड़ी करनी चाहिए? टैंक्स
No,
आर्मी के?
it's
Tell me
just
that.
a
No,
waste.
right?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Correct. So that is a waste of money, correct? Waste of
Yes,
money,
yes, ma'am.
waste of energy, everything. तो इसको बोलते हैं वर्क फैक्टर. इट मीन्स कि आप पहले ये देखो व्हाट यू आर सिक्योरिंग, उसके हिसाब से उसके अराउंड सिक्योरिटी लगाओ. अगर आपकी सिक्योरिटी से आपका सिक्योरिटी का कॉस्ट ज्यादा है आपके रिसोर्स से, तो कोई फायदा नहीं है ऐसी सिक्योरिटी लगाने का. ओके, तो सिक्योरिटी का ध्यान रखना है, पर इतना भी नहीं रखना है कि हम भाई we are lost into it. Okay, so we have to evaluate our resource and then only we should provide the security for it. Finally, compromise recording. It means that sometimes it is more desirable to record the details of intrusion than to adopt a more sophisticated measure to prevent it. Again, so ये भी एक work factor का extended version है. Even if you are not putting a lot of good security controls because your जो आपका asset है वो इतना valuable नहीं है, but still you should record अगर किसी ने compromise किया है, अगर किसी ने breach करने की कोशिश की है, if somebody has stolen something from you, you should still see it, you should still record it, you should still read it, okay, what has happened. You should know, okay, who did it and how they did it, so that even if you are not putting a lot of effort into putting security around it, you should know what happened and how to prevent it next time. Make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
All
Ma'am,
right.
like you explained by giving an example of a small house and a bungalow,
Mhm.
and that but if in a small house we create the complexity of a bungalow, then
Mhm.
also the psychology of the threater can be manipulated, like as you have also explained that while if we have a lot of accessing and verification passwords, etc., so the person will find trouble in logging in.
Correct.
So maybe this can be a thing by which we can manipulate the psychology of a threater.
Okay, so you have misunderstood psychological ability with the acceptability with the psychology of hacker, but it is actually the psychology of user. Now I'm talking about a user. एक यूजर जो आपकी ऐप यूज कर रहा है उसके लिए सिक्योरिटी कंट्रोल्स को इम्प्लीमेंट कर पाना इजी होना चाहिए, दैट्स व्हाट आई एम सेइंग. लेकिन हैकर के लिए उनको ब्रेक कर पाना डिफिकल्ट होना चाहिए. The point in which I talked
Okay.
about psychological acceptability is from user point of view. जो यूजर है, मैंने एक ऐप बनाई है, आई हैव क्रिएटेड सम सोल्यूशन एंड मैं चाहती हूँ माय ऐप शुड बी यूज्ड बाय एवरीबॉडी. लेकिन इफ आई एम पुटिंग अ lot of technical you know lot of technical authentication controls या ऐसा कुछ भी, देन यूजर को क्या होगा, हर बारी प्रॉब्लम होगी. एवरी टाइम वो ऐप स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं दे हैव टू डू 10 टाइम्स ऑफ थिंग्स व्हिच दे यूज्ड टू डू अर्लियर. तो वो नहीं करेंगे. दे हैव टू स्पेंड 5 मिनट्स इन लॉगिंग इन. डू यू थिंक एनीबडी इज गोइंग टू डू दैट? नो, राइट? क्या चाहते हैं हम लोग कि हमारा
Right.
फिंगरप्रिंट स्कैन हो एंड वी आर लॉग्ड इनटू आवर फोन और सिस्टम और व्हाटएवर. करेक्ट? So psychological acceptability is from the point of view of user. But yes, you are correct. If we are creating a small app but making it secure for the putting lot of security controls so that it is difficult for hacker to break in, definitely that is how the things are being done. This is how we usually do it. So in short, app ऐसी होनी चाहिए या सिस्टम या आर्किटेक्चर ऐसा होना चाहिए कि जो एक्चुअली में ऑथराइज्ड है लॉगिन करने के लिए, उसके लिए बहुत इजी होना चाहिए. बट अगर कोई अनऑथराइज्ड मैनर में लॉगिन करने की कोशिश कर रहा है तो उसके लिए बहुत 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 डिफिकल्ट होना चाहिए. मेक सेंस नाउ?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's go ahead. So I think we are running out of time. I have taken a lot of time in previous slides. All right, so I'll be quick. So these are the types of cyber attacks which I came across, but there are many. So this is not limited to this slide. Some of them are web-based attacks and some are system-based attacks. Okay. So in the left-hand side, you see web-based attacks, out of which we have injection attacks, phishing attacks, brute force attack, denial of service, man in the middle, session hijacking. And there is one very interesting attack, zero-day attack. This I will discuss with you. बट बाकी जितने भी अटैक्स हैं, आई एक्सपेक्ट यू टू टेल मी अगर आपको कुछ भी पता है. डू यू नो एनीथिंग अबाउट एनी ऑफ दीज अटैक्स? एनीवन? I'll be really happy and I'll explain it better if you know it. फिशिंग के बारे में शायद आपने सुना हो. एनीबडी हर्ड अबाउट फिशिंग?
Yes, ma'am.
सुना है? So can you tell us what it is? All right, so let me explain
Ma'am,
it quickly. Yeah.
am I audible?
हाँ, audible now.
Okay, I'm sorry. मुझे लगा मैं audible थी. Okay, ma'am. Phishing is a term which a cybersecurity expert has taught us in a previous seminars. So
Mhm.
it is a kind of threat in which some kind of messages or emails and some kind of text are being sent.
Mhm.
It is a kind of loop are being sent to the user, and
Mhm.
then they are set to click on that particular link, and this kind of threats are called phishing actually.
Awesome.
In
Awesome.
most
That's
cases, bank.
Mhm. Yes, yes, please.
Yes, ma'am, I'm done.
All right. Amazing. क्या नाम है आपका?
Ma'am, Soumya Jyoti Singh.
Soumya. Okay. So, absolutely correct, Soumya. It was a very good explanation. So, phishing is basically when you lure someone into clicking on some link or, you know, doing some, filling some form, giving your personal information. That is phishing. Even if I call you Soumya and tell you that I'm calling from a certain bank and your, Aadhaar details are required for, maybe renewal of your bank account or something like that, that is also a type of phishing. So anything, जब भी आपको कोई बेवकूफ बनाना चाहता है and telling you some things and then asking you to provide information in return, that is called phishing. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Injection attacks means, I'll be quick explaining these, but if you want, we can have another session some other day and I can explain these in detail. Okay. So, injection attack is basically when you are trying to manipulate the input that you provide in some website. So, there is some website, आपको username and password डालना है, but you are giving some such a input कि server end पे there is some other different operation takes place and you are given list of some you are given some secret information from the server which you should not be knowing. For example, you can be given information about some other user or their password. Okay. So that is called injection attack. Injection means you are injecting some malicious input or code into the server or on the web page so that it goes back to server and fetches you the details of some secret details or some unauthorized detail of other users. Okay. Brute force is when you have gone like crazy with logging into somebody's account. For example, myself is Aarti. I'm trying to logging into Soumya's account and I don't know the password. So what I'll do is I'll apply every combination on the keyboard on and I will keep entering the password in different combinations until I there is a match and I am able to crack into her account. Make sense? Any doubts here?
Ma'am, this is which kind of attack?
Brute force. Brute force
Okay,
means
okay, ma'am.
very persistent attack. So you're trying all the combinations of passwords just to get into somebody's account. This is why they keep a limit कि आप 3 या 5 से ज्यादा बार लॉग इन नहीं कर सकते हो wrong. Correct? Else
Yes,
आपका
ma'am.
account block हो जाएगा. This is why, because brute force से you are bound to get some sort of combination, even though it takes a lot of time. Okay. Then there is denial of service attack. It means it impacts the availability. Remember, we discussed 3 pillars of cybersecurity: integrity, confidentiality, and availability. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So denial of service में क्या होता है? I will create some fake system, fake accounts on different computers, or I will have one computer and I'm sending many requests, bogus requests on the server. फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपकी यूनिवर्सिटी का कोई सर्वर होगा, उसके ऊपर आपकी वेबसाइट होस्ट हो रही होगी, बट देर इज अ स्टूडेंट हु इज ट्राइंग टू अटैक और keep requesting the server for some details and he's sending the request from many systems at the same time. So what it will do is आपकी जो वेबसाइट है वो क्रैश कर जाएगी. ओके होता है ना, सर्वर डाउन होता है,
Yes,
वेबसाइट
ma'am.
लोड
Yes,
नहीं
ma'am.
होती है. इट मे हैपन ड्यू टू natural cause also कि load बहुत ज्यादा है, but it may also happen because somebody is sending lot of bogus requests to the website, resulting in the failure of the website. Okay, so that's called denial of service. Doesn't impact your confidentiality or integrity, बस वो availability कम कर देता है. Okay, then there is man in the middle attack. In this attack what happens is attacker sits between server and the client. So what happens is, for example, आप मेरे को अपनी क्लास के किन्हीं भी दो बच्चों के नाम दो. Any two students. I know Soumya, and then there was another student,
Anamika.
Anamika. Okay, so Anamika and Soumya are trying to talk to each other, but over call, for example, or sending some email. Okay, so what I have done is I have given Anamika my email address, saying this is Soumya's address. Okay, and I have given Soumya Anamika's email address. My email address, saying this is Anamika's address. So what happens is, जब भी अनामिका को सौम्या से बात करनी है, she'll send me the mail first. I will check the mail, then I will send the response to uh, Anamika on Soumya's behalf. Does it make sense? There is someone sitting in between. They are interrupting the communication between the two parties. They are able to check their messages and they are able to reply. And they decide whether they want to, send this message across or not. Does it make sense?
Ma'am, so all the social networking sites which are sitting while we are chatting with someone or texting with someone, so this is also kind of man in the middle attack, because they are able to read everything like that. Privacy concerns are being raised.
No, this is why these websites give you this. First of all, I would say that there is no guarantee. Even if they give their word, there is no guarantee. But
yes, and that's why privacy issues are raised.
Correct. But these website or these service providers do have this clause in their policies that they will not read anybody's personal messages, or they will not misbehave with these details. Correct? But even then, I would say that you are not safe. It is up to them. Even if they are saying this, they do have the final call. They do have the power to check your messages. अभी जैसे WhatsApp पे बोला जाता है ना that your messages are encrypted end to end. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So they have said it. So it means that they are legally bound. If they do not do that, it means कि they are breaching some sort of legal क्या बोलते हैं clause, and they will be punished अगर किसी को पता चला that they are reading. Okay, but even so, in the end, they do have the ultimate power. If they want, they can read your messages. Make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
So they just work under legal boundaries. That's all. Finally, there is session hijacking. Session hijacking is something like you're going to some cyber cafe, you have entered your credentials, you have logged into Google or Facebook, but when coming back, you did not log out. All right. So this may result in session hijacking. This is one example. It can also happen that when you are working on some some external Wi-Fi, and you are trying to log into some Facebook or something. Okay, so what the attacker will do is they will simply steal your cache or your session ID, and they will enter your account on your behalf using that session ID, क्योंकि आपने log out नहीं किया होगा. Make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Coming to system-based attacks, so there are viruses, worms, Trojan horses, backdoors, bots. Anybody who knows about anything? Any of these? This is very simple, right? आपके पास, whenever you have some pen drive, do you worry about virus? कहीं इसमें वायरस ना हो, मेरे सिस्टम में वायरस ना आ जाए. You have heard about these terms, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So let me tell you in detail. So virus is a malicious software. What it does is that it has the capability of replicating itself. तो जैसे कि आपने पेन ड्राइव अपने सिस्टम में लगाई, तो वायरस will, what will it do is it will replicate into your system also. Okay, it will come into your system, it will create a copy of itself and infect your system. All right. Then there is worm. Worm doesn't need any human effort. You don't have to connect pen drive or anything. It can travel on its own. It can do that on its own. Okay. So if you have some worm on email, it can infect your system. The only way to prevent it is आपके पास antivirus software होना चाहिए. Okay. Then there is Trojan horse. So Trojan horse is one of the deadliest kind of malware. So what it does is you are downloading some legitimate file from internet, for example. आपको कोई सर्विस चाहिए, आपको फॉर एग्जांपल कोई पिक्चर एडिट करनी है, आपने कोई एडिटर डाउनलोड किया, बट इंस्टेड it is not the real software but it is the Trojan horse. So what it does is आपको तो लगा आपने legitimate software डाउनलोड किया है, आप उस पे पिक्चर भी एडिट कर रहे हो इंस्टॉल करने के बाद, but in the back end Trojan horse is infecting your system, sending your details to some other person, okay, and stealing your data. Make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Then there is backdoors. So backdoors are more like openings into your code when for which you don't need some ID password. So for example, I have created one application which is like Instagram. Okay, everybody needs to make a account on that and everybody needs to put ID and password. But since I made the application, मैंने उसमें एक twist रखा. What I did was, जब मैं उसका कोड लिख रही थी, I said कि if the username is Aarti, then don't ask for password. I will get direct login. Why did I do it? Because I was the creator. I did it for myself. But if any hacker gets to know about it, they can use this vulnerability and use it to their own benefit. So does it make sense? What is a backdoor? Backdoor is a
Yes, ma'am.
unauthorized way to log in into the application. Okay. Usually this is a mistake created by the developers. Okay. Finally, there are bots. I was talking about denial of service and web-based attacks, in which there is someone who's trying to attack a particular website with a request and bringing it down ultimately, because there are a huge number of requests coming from different machines. So these different machines are known as bots. What do they known as? Bots. So bot means any hacker can take control of systems or interconnected systems and create them its own robots for sending requests to a particular website. So as a hacker, I can have an interconnected system. I hack all of them and I use them to launch attack on a certain website. So these systems are now known as bots. Hope it's clear. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So finally, apart from these, there are some attacks which don't fall in any of those categories. So I have written them separately. So these are physical data breach. So somebody coming inside the building and stealing the data. It's called physical data breach. Okay. There is social engineering. It means I go ahead and make friends with someone and then I try to steal their information, or I see how many family members they have or whom these people are close to. Basically, it's more like spying, collecting information, or talking to someone and making them reveal something secret about themselves. That is called social engineering. Make sense? Then there is also
Yes, ma'am.
shoulder surfing. So it is like you are going to cyber cafe, you are logging into some account, and somebody is standing behind you, looking at the keyboard, what you are typing. Now they know your password. So that is called shoulder surfing. They are looking over your shoulder to know what you are exactly entering into the application. Okay. Then I said there is something very interesting I want to talk about later, which is zero-day attack. Anybody knows about zero-day attack? Okay. So zero-day attack क्या होता है? It is the new kind of attack. All right. So any attack that is very new, that has never been done before, but it appeared only yesterday or a moment ago. So that is called zero-day attack. Any attack about which we don't know, okay, and happens for the very first time. It's called zero-day attack. Make sense? All right, I'll go ahead.
Ma'am, can you repeat that, please?
Zero-day attack. So for example, right, there can be a lot of vulnerabilities in the system. Even if we are trying to make it secure, there can be some things which can be exploited and nobody might know about it. Okay. But there is some hackers who are working day and night to break into the system. And if they come across some vulnerability, new vulnerability, and they exploit it somehow, that attack is known as zero-day attack. Zero-day matlab, it is very new. It has happened for the very first time and nobody knows about it. Make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
It has happened for the very first time. Now, again, I have already explained this in my previous slide. What is the terminology or what are the meanings of these different types of malwares? So, malware is any malicious software that has the potential to cause harm to your system, network, or any user. And these are the different kinds of malware. It is not limited to this. There are more number of malwares, but these are the main ones which I wanted to discuss. I told you about virus, I told you about worm, Trojan horse we discussed. Then there is rootkit. So this is a collection of software that is that is there in your system to collect sensitive information. But इसका जो main characteristic है वो ये है that it tries very very hard to not get detected in your system. So it is a very smart software. That is why they say it's not just a single software but multiple softwares working together to hide the presence of the system. In fact, this is one of the malware which even resides on your kernel level of your system. So it is very difficult to remove it because even before your system boots, this software or this malware is already boots up before that. So it's very difficult to detect it and remove it from your system. Okay. Anybody knows about ransomware? Any ideas?
Yeah, there was like a ransomware, WannaCry, where people ransomware is basically like doing something to your PC. So it encrypts the data and asks for like money on, let's say, Bitcoin in Bitcoin, something like that. If that
That is
makes sense.
correct. So as you discussed about WannaCry, it happened in 2017, I guess. Yeah. So WannaCry is one of the ransomware attacks. It is, I think, one of the deadliest malware at the moment for all the organizations. What they do in this kind of attack is, if first of all they send some sort of link or some sort of, I would say execution file to you, and you just have to download it, install it, or you just have to click on the link. And what happens is the next moment is the entire data in your system gets encrypted and the hacker has the key. So what hacker tells you is, if you want your data back, you have to provide us with the certain amount of bitcoins. Okay. And there is still not a guarantee. Even if you give the bitcoins, there's not a guarantee that the hacker is going to decrypt your data or provide the key. So this is one of the very deadliest attacks which are going on at the moment. Then there are keyloggers. Again, you must have heard that people keep telling you that whenever you go to cyber cafes, don't use your keyboard to put in your password. Instead, use virtual keyboards, because keyloggers has the capability to capture your password based on your keystrokes. I hope you're aware about it. Anybody who knows about keyloggers? Especially you have seen on the bank websites, they ask you to enter your password using virtual keyboard. It's because keyloggers solely depend on the keystrokes of your keyboard and they cannot detect the password. I mean, in most of the cases, cannot detect the password if you're entering through the virtual keyboard. Then there are adwares wherein you are given this opportunity to win an iPhone in 1 rupee. Has anybody done this till now? That they have clicked on certain offer wherein they are saying that you can buy one iPhone for 1 rupee or something. किसी ने किया है आज तक?
Yeah,
No,
but I
ma'am.
still haven't got it.
Who did it? All right. So it happens actually when we are unaware and we don't know about these things. We do think that these are legitimate offers and we click on them, especially our parents or people who are not from the tech field. They think that there is actually some sort of opportunity or ad or whatever, and we can get something in lower price. So let me tell you, nothing is free. Everything has a price. अगर iPhone 1 रुपए में बिक रहा होता, then nobody would be, buying it for
Exactly.
correct. Huh. So you have to understand that these ads are just a medium for you to click on them and download some malicious file or software or something. And and in fact, they ask you sometime to enter your bank account details. So this is a very shady business. So you should stay away from that. All right. So these are the certain types of hackers. I will quickly glance upon them. If there, I think these are straightforward definitions, but if you do have any doubts, you can interrupt me in between. So first come the black hat hacker, the worst class of hackers. So these are the hackers who solely destroy system for fun or some sort of personal grudge. They have very high skills. They can steal your data. They can blackmail you. In fact, the people who are working with ransomware can be called as black hat hackers. Okay. Going ahead, we have white hat hackers. Now, these are the hackers which you want to be. These are the ethical hackers. They are employed by the company for the safety of their company. Okay. And they have required skills equivalent to black hat hackers, but they do use it for the good purpose. Okay. There are gray hat hackers. Now, these are the hackers who may wear several hats. They can work as bad hackers or good hackers depending on the money or the privileges they are being given. So they have their hands in both the businesses. Then there are script kiddies. Now this is the hacker I am. Okay, so these are the hackers who are not very skilled and they solely rely on internet or the resources through which they can hack into certain machine. So they have some predefined script. Even if they don't know about what the script is doing, they know how to apply it at the right place and get the information. Okay. Then there are state sponsored hackers. So these are the hackers which government hires to steal information from their rivals or different opponents. So they are similar to I wouldn't say they are similar to white hat hackers, but they do some favors to a particular organization or government when they are being hired. Then there are hacktivists. So your groups like Anonymous or different, there are some hacker groups which do hacking solely for with the intention of some political agenda, religious beliefs, or social ideology. So these are the hackers which we call hacktivists. We don't call them good hackers or bad hackers because they are still into a very gray zone. But all you need to know is that they try to promote some sort of idea or religious belief through their activities. Okay, you might have heard sometimes that Indian hackers hack Pakistan government pages or something, and vice versa. So you can call them hacktivist in a way. Okay. Then there are cyber terrorists. So they have very, very malicious intents. They want to hack into the system of the some higher organization solely for terrorist activities, and they may have some dark outcomes. There may be some dark outcomes of their activities. So basically, they work for terrorist groups. Finally, there are spy hackers. So these are employed by companies to spy on other companies. So there may be some people who are working in certain company, but they are actually the spy hacker of some other organization. So it happens like that. Okay.
Paid gray, a gray hat in other
Yeah.
sense.
Sorry. Paid
Paid
gray hat.
gray hat in other sense.
Yeah, you can say that. It's a good terminology. But then again, we call them spy hackers because they don't do anything malicious. Their sole purpose is to steal the information and not reveal themselves. Okay, so they don't do any damage to other organization or company. Getting? However,
Yes,
grey
ma'am.
hat hackers go ahead and do that. All right. Finally, how to get into cybersecurity? What do you think? What is the first step? So the first step is you have to be a genius. How many of you are genius here? Not a single person? Soumya, Anamika, no one?
Ma'am, we are trying to be.
All right. So let me tell you, it's not required. Okay, you don't have to be a genius. Otherwise, I myself wouldn't be here. Okay, so it's just something that is a misconception that you need to be a genius to be in cybersecurity. That is completely wrong. You don't have to be. All you need to be, all you need to be in cybersecurity is your interest and your hard work and persistence. That is everything you need. Second step, research is very important part of it. So if you don't know about things, you may never get motivated, you may never know where to start. So keep researching. There are so many sessions out there. Attend them, see what other people have to say, and look forward to it. Then there is third step, attend cybersecurity conferences, seminars. So I have mentioned some of them here, which I am part of, like Nalcon, OWASP, or InfoSec Girls. So it is very good for girls, by the way. There are any girls here who wants to start their career in cybersecurity, I do recommend that you check out InfoSec Girls. Then there is OWASP, Seaside. So all these organizations do have some weekly or monthly connects wherein you get to connect with like-minded peoples. So I would highly recommend if you can do that, it would be beneficial for your career. Fourth step is to enhance your system network knowledge. So please do that. It is something I wish somebody had told me, that you need a very strong networking skill. Uh, I wouldn't say it's necessary, but definitely it is going to add, it is going to change your entire knowledge of cybersecurity. It is that important. So definitely you should start with something which surrounds system networks. Then you can go ahead, have certification. Cybersecurity offers a lot of certifications. Some of them I have mentioned here: CompTIA Security Plus, CEH version 10, CCNP Security, SSCP, GIAC, CISSP. So these certifications are from beginner to intermediate level. For some, you might need some years of experience, but CompTIA Security Plus, CEH version 10 are very basic level. You don't need any experience for them, so you can go ahead and explore these two at the moment. In fact, Cisco has some beginners courses for cybersecurity. Then there are some specialized courses which are which are not exactly certifications, but more like on Udemy or your Coursera. You can go ahead and check them out. Then there are some, or you can go for masters. In fact, I've heard that now they have some graduate degree focused on cybersecurity. So that is also, if you are recommending someone who is younger than you and going to get admitted into some college, you can recommend them. Or if you yourself want, you can go ahead and do masters in information security. It is a great avenue. In fact, there are many scholarships available for people around the world for who wants to work in cybersecurity. So do check them out. Seventh step, which is most important, stay updated, because there is no point of learning any skill, technical skill, I would say, if you're not if you're not learning something new with each passing day. That is important. All right. Finally, I think again my slide switched, I guess. So defenses against cyber attacks. So these are a few tools which I have mentioned here for cybersecurity defenses. There are firewall, IDS, IPS. You might know about it already. It is also there like a software in your computer or Windows OS, but actually it is like a device which companies use to prevent any malicious traffic, and from losing any information, or sending any confidential information outside the network. So firewall plays a very important role in that. Anybody knows about IDS, IPS? Anybody? So I seriously recommend that you go ahead and read something about IDS, IPS. I think it is something which everybody should know who wants to make a career in cybersecurity. So IDS is known as intrusion detection system, and IPS is prevention system. So they are, you can say, an advanced version of firewall, and they are very smart in detecting any sort of intrusion or preventing it and giving you the right alarm when it happens. Then there are antiviruses. You already know about it, I'm sure. You might have it in your system. So they are very, very important part of cybersecurity or endpoint security. So, and another thing is, if you're having an antivirus and you're not updating it, then also having an antivirus is not as beneficial as it can be. So ensure that every time you have any antivirus installed, you update it regularly. Finally, there is PKI services. So these are your, when you're browsing, you do see a lock sign on the browsing address bar, right? I hope you have seen it. It's a green color lock. So it is being facilitated by PKI, which is public key infrastructure, and SSL and TLS is part of that. So PKI enables us to send and receive data securely over the internet. Then there is VAPT, which is vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. So these two things are a dedicated area in cybersecurity. So there are many people who work like VAPT experts in the field of cybersecurity, or you can even say they are the white hat hackers who work in this field. So their job is to again find out the vulnerability, which is the weakness in the entire system, and then penetration testing is the process of exploiting those vulnerabilities and checking how easily they can be exploited. So once these people do that, they provide a report to the organization, and organization review the report and provide and apply the patches. They apply the right controls to prevent these vulnerabilities or from getting exploited. Finally, so did you know that 95% of cybersecurity breaches are caused by human error? 95%. Do you know how big a number it is? So at last, staff training, if you're not having your employees trained on cybersecurity, then it is not as beneficial having a lot of infrastructure surrounding security or a lot of heavy devices to keep your organization secure, because 95% of the time it is the human error that causes a security breach. You should keep it in mind. So even if you are not going to be a security expert and you're joining any organization, they will give you a security orientation every month or every 3 months, just to keep you updated on what to do and what not to do. Hope that clears it up. Finally, these are some cybersecurity career options. You can become incident responder, security admin, vulnerability assessor, security manager, security architect, CISO, cryptographer, forensic expert, security auditor. So there is a wide range of career option available in cybersecurity. And let me be honest, I have not even captured all of them. So you see how much it is. So even if you are not a technical person, you still have an option to go and explore cybersecurity. So you don't have to have a specific skill to come into cybersecurity. You can choose a field of your where your abilities are being matched, or the field which you know attracts you, and you can still work as a cybersecurity expert without any doubt. Earlier, I worked as security auditor and incident responder. So my job or my role was a combination of 2 or 3 of these roles. And as you can see, the numbers are showing that cybersecurity market is booming. You can go ahead and have a very, very well-paid job in this field. Any questions so far? Anything you want to ask? So this is a question and answer slide. We are at the end of this presentation. I'm sorry it dragged a bit, but I hope you learned something. Any questions, anyone? Anamika, Soumya?
Actually, you have explained
Ma'am,
everything.
all my doubts about cybersecurity are cleared from your slides and explanation. It was so good. Ma'am, I want you to share your experience, mean in your graduation years, how you practice or do something that you grab a good position in job, like you are the manager for cybersecurity in very good company. So what you done? Can you
But
please share?
yes, yes. So it is a highly recommended thing for all of you, even if you are not going to pursue cybersecurity as a full-fledged course. For example, you're not going for masters, but you can still have a very good positioning in this field by grabbing some certifications. I mentioned these certifications only for that matter. For example, CEH, CompTIA, Security Plus, Network Plus, CCNA Security. One second. Sorry for that. So my point here is that if you're going through these certifications, which I mentioned here, you will see that a lot of companies have demand for these certifications when they are hiring any cybersecurity expert. When I got my job, I already had CEH at that time, and this is why I was mapped to cybersecurity domain. When I was doing BTech, I grabbed the certification. Another thing to highlight here is when you're doing a certification, you have to get it renewed every 3 or 5 years, depending on the certification duration. So your certification is valid for a limited period of time. However, it is easier to get it renewed after you have completed it or after you have qualified it the first time. So my suggestion would be, if you want to get into this field and if there are no cybersecurity related courses in your graduation, then you should go ahead and get some familiarity and try to get these basic certifications as of now. You can even go ahead and get certifications from Udemy or Coursera courses. I think they are also very good in starting your career.
Ma'am, like IBM also offers a course on cybersecurity. So is it useful if we do that?
Definitely. I think any course on cybersecurity is useful, but you have to keep in mind that what is your level. So myself, if I'm going to have that course again after a certain year of experience, then it may not mean much to me. But to a fresher, it may mean a lot. Okay, so for someone who
Yes,
has
ma'am.
been in the field, they should go ahead and grab higher certifications like OSCP or CISSP, which require you to have 5 years of experience or something, correct? But for beginners, I think any course that you do at the moment is going to benefit you a lot. But yes, CEH has a different level of recognition in the industry. It is provided by EC Council. I think it is a best way to kickstart.
Yes, exactly. Whatever you have briefed in today's session is completely going to help us if we want to initiate a field of cybersecurity.
Definitely, and anytime you want any guidance, you can ping me on LinkedIn, and I do have people who come there for some sort of suggestion or guidance. So definitely, anytime. Any more questions
Thank you, ma'am.
from today's session? Thanks a lot. If not, I would end this PPT. These are some references. If you want, you can go ahead and check them out. And thank you so much for being such a nice audience. I mean, I myself enjoyed the session a lot. So thank you for bearing with me and listening to me.
Thank you so
Actually,
much.
in
It
the
was like, sorry, carry on.
no, sir, please.
Okay, it was like a great session. Thank you so much. You gave us an interview about everything. I think you covered all the topics. So yeah, that was a great session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yes, ma'am. With the pace you have explained everything,
you
that
so
was
much.
just
Thank you. And thank you for having me, actually. It was after a long time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot. And I will leave you with this bonus slide. If you want, you can go ahead and give it a read for your own sake. And rest, I think we're
Have a
good.
good
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am. Can you please share the slides with us?
definitely. I will share it with Sir Nimble sir, and he can share it with all of you, whoever attended here.
Okay, ma'am.
All right then. Thanks a lot. If you want, you can take the screenshot and read it later. For now.
yes, ma'am. We have taken the screenshots of every slide.
Awesome. That's good.
Thank you.
All right then. Thanks a lot.
Well, actually, we are here to say thank you to you because you have just given your such precious time to brief us out about cybersecurity.
No, Soumya, it's pleasure. It's always a pleasure. I do see some question in chat. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't get time to read your chats then. All right then, Soumya and Anamika and Nirmal, if that's all it is, we can end the call now. And
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
share the slides.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. We
Thank
will
you,
try
Aarti
to
ma'am,
connect
for
you
your
again
You're
Thank you,
for
most
such a
welcome, guys.
session.
Most
Ma'am,
welcome,
if
guys.
you'll accept our invitation for the next session also, we'll be very glad to have you
Sure thing.
with
If
us.
you have anything specific in mind, let me know. I will try to give it my best.
Of course, ma'am. Thanks a lot, ma'am. So, do we
Thank you,
conclude
Lord.
this session, ma'am?
Yeah, definitely.
And
Thanks a lot.
anybody have any question regarding? I guess there's no question. So,
All right then. I will share the slide if you want to have a look.
yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice
Good
day.
evening, ma'am, and a
Bye.
great day, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.